Well, hey there, sweet peas. Welcome back to Friendless. I'm your host, James Avramenko, and this week I am joined on the show by the incredible Dust Cwaine, the icon themselves. We talk about building micro-communities, navigating friendship breakups, and what it really takes to be vulnerable, both on and off stage. Not only that, but at the end of the episode, we also have a very special exclusive sneak peek at Dust's brand new song. So you're going to want to stick around for that. But for now, lean back, get comfy, set your volume at a reasonable level, crack a Diet Coke, and let's get into it with my interview with the one and only Dust Cwaine here on Friendless. Well, this week on Friendless, I have a brand new friend who, someone who I have been admiring from afar on Instagram, and have very rapidly become pretty goo-goo eyes over. And I just cannot believe that they are on the show. The one, the only, Dust Cwaine. How are you?
James, okay, I'm gonna coast on charm this entire interview, okay? Because let's hope let's hope my charm knows these bounds. But I've never listened to your podcast.
That's fine. That's fine.
I was sitting today and I was like, do I need to do research? And I was like, no,
fuck no. No, honestly, half the episodes I haven't listened to, and I recorded them. So, I get it,
those are the enemy episodes.
Literally. Those are the ones that I'm like, yeah. Those are the ones that I'm like, look, I needed to put something out that week. It's fine. We're moving on, just stick and roll, right?
And shout out to your partner Shannon for connecting us. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Amazing. So this is how it initially started. Was Shannon and you go back, and she was recommending, kind of just people in the community that I might want to bring on the show, and it took me a couple months to work up the courage to ask you. Actually, funny enough, it wasn't even an ask. It was a call out that you answered, and I kind of had a momentary panic attack where I was like, oh right, like people see my stories and people see the content I put out, and oh no, I'm being perceived, right? But
my favorite thing about that is when I messaged, you were like, oh, I'm not actually ready to book anyone yet, and I was like, okay, circle back.
Like this is the thing. Okay, the ransom note of letters that I have amassed in my mental health diagnosis often lead me to impulsive and not very thought out acts. Let's call them behaviors, and one of them being right. And I got it in my head that I was like, I need a new batch of guests. So I was like, I'm gonna do this before I forget. And then I was like, oh right, there's other things I had to have in place first.
What's it like to be the only mentally ill person on the earth?
It makes me feel really special, and it makes me feel really
special.
Yeah. It's nice to know I'm unique in my anxieties and in my impulsivity, and no one else behaves like this,
Yeah, that's fair. Well, good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm really, congratulations on not being mentally ill on your side.
Thank you so much. Right? Yeah.
You did it.
They tried to get me. They tried.
Yep.
They tried. I've been skirting those letters for a long time.
Mm-hmm. If you just anytime a doctor talks, if you just plug your ears and go la 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 la, then
the best way to not. The best way to not get diagnosed is to just not go to the doctor.
Exactly. I don't believe in medicine,
No. I did, however, recently go to the doctor because I had an ear blockage.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like in rehearsals and things like that, my ear was throbbing, and then I jumped in a river and it just went completely deaf. And I was like, okay, not super duper convenient. So I went to the doctor. And she had on the counter this Home Depot spray bottle.
Yeah. Oh, you got him flashed.
And then they put the little needle in your ear, and then they go. And she literally gasped when the giant chunk of wax came out.
Yep.
I could hear. It was like I was hearing for the first time.
Oh my God. I remember the first time I've had my ears flushed a few times. I actually own my own ear flusher because it happens so often.
Cool.
Um, and I remember the first time I had a doctor flush, and I the way I could describe it was like hearing for the first time in 3D. You know, like it was like there was like sounds I didn't know existed because they'd
Yeah,
been muted for so long, right?
yeah. I could hear smells. I
Yeah.
was like, this is crazy. And then I was like, then we had rehearsal again, and I was like, oh, you know what was happening was the drums
Hmm.
were making the earwax like vibrate, and it was
Hmm.
irritating me.
Yep, yep, and just going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Okay,
Crazy.
so before we get any further, this is really encouraging to know that we're going to be able to just vibe in this conversation. Love to hear that. Crack that as soon as possible because you
It's
deserve it.
Diet Pepsi, and
Hmm.
I hope the sound comes in clear. Maybe you can go in and edit it so that it's more
Yeah,
punchy.
a nice crisp, you know.
I assume you've heard. I know you were just going to intro me, and I'm just interrupting you completely. It's totally fine.
Bring it on.
Have you heard Addison Rae's song "Diet Pepsi"?
Maybe. I do have to admit I am atrocious with song names. I usually just hear a song and I'm like, oh, I like that. And then anytime it's on, I'm like, I like that song. I have no idea who it is, who's sang it, what it's called, anything. But we're
This
gonna say
bodes
a
well
strong
for this.
maybe.
This bodes well for this interview where you're interviewing a musician.
It's true. I I've been trying to practice song titles and none of them are sticking.
This is great. I haven't listened to your podcast. You don't remember song titles.
Exactly, exactly.
This is
We're
great.
gonna do great. We're gonna do so good. I was gonna pass the buck to you, and I was gonna say, Dust Cwaine, for listeners who may not know who you are, um, who the fuck are you?
Very good point. Very good question. Very good point. Who the fuck am I indeed? Well, I am Vancouver's premier drag musician.
Mhm.
I am a reincarnated mermaid. I This is crazy. I normally say that I drink Diet Coke, but I'm literally drinking a Diet Pepsi. Oh, anyway, yeah, I am a drag queen, a musician. Voted local hero in the Best of Vancouver Awards 2025 and maybe 2026. Who knows? Or sorry, 2024, maybe 2025.
Yep, it's
We'll
coming up.
see. It's coming up. And Yeah, I've been around the city as an artist and culture maker for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And Vancouver's such a wild place for that because of how difficult it is to make friends here.
Hmm.
And my entry point for that was when I moved here in 2015. I started working for BeatRoute Magazine,
Mm.
and I pitched to them writing a monthly article about drag performers. At the time, in 2015, RuPaul's Drag Race was just sort of starting to get its steam. It was just before All Stars 2 came out.
Okay.
Some of your listeners might know what I'm talking about. You might even know what I'm talking about. Just follow along.
Yep.
I'm not going to explain the lore. Um, and so things really changed after All Stars 2, let me tell you. But it
Hmm.
was before this. And so we were putting these articles about drag queens into BeatRoute Magazine monthly. And the the first one I ever did was my drag mother Chandelier, and we took photos of her, and I wrote an interview. I wrote basically a profile piece about her. And it was then she was like, I think you need to do drag. So
Mm.
she put me in drag. And that was in 2016. So I guess I think I'm at 9 years in drag, but
Wow.
10 years, in the
In the
sphere
scene.
of like creating culture in the city and contributing.
Yep.
And what I realized by that, I met so many people in that process because I had something to give and I wanted to give it and I wanted to meet people and all these things. And I think the naive part was that you eventually maybe sometimes run out of the things you can give. For
Yeah.
me, what's great is I started doing drag, and so I started forging my own path.
Hmm.
Couldn't necessarily see a lot of myself in the shows that were happening, and felt a need for like building a space where people could be weird instead of
Mm.
it being like um, polished or whatever. And it's an interesting take because over time I've become more polished and the shows I produce have become more polished. But I think that that's just like a maybe a maturity thing or a wanting to move on thing.
It feels like a
Um,
natural progression, right? Like you kind of
uh,
have to get more refined as you do something. You inherently can't be as sloppy as you were at the start, you know, because
Totally. And there's still
right.
some elements,
Hmm.
maintaining fun, maintaining a
Hmm.
carefree nature that's so important. But
Hmm.
5 years into drag is when I transitioned to starting to do music because the pandemic hit. And a friend
Yes.
of mine was like, hey, like everything has slowed down. Now you can focus on, something bigger.
Hmm.
And what I mean by bigger is I wanted to do something that would live past me being here
Hmm.
because drag is ephemeral. You can wipe it off
Yeah.
at the end of the night and maybe there's a couple Instagram stories, but Instagram stories are not forever.
No.
And so I was like, music seems to be like the thing that does that. And I was like, and because I'm iconic in drag, I'm going to be iconic in music. And that
Hmm.
is and is not and was not the T. Um, let me tell you, the local indie bands don't have much time for a drag queen, um,
Yeah. Oh,
which is
yeah.
fine.
I
It's
mean,
stupid. It's boring.
yeah.
I think they have this preconceived notion of cool,
Yeah.
and I think they don't understand they could reach. I don't understand. I don't think they understand that they can go from their shows having 15 people in the audience to having like 150 people in the audience
Yeah.
by booking a very visibly queer act.
Hmm.
It's such an act of allyship. Instead,
Hmm.
they'd rather just, I don't know, not get political. I don't know. There's
Yeah.
so much that goes on in the scene that I'm just sort of like, I get it. If you don't want to have a drag queen around, I completely understand, but you're missing out, you know?
There is something. I wish I had a stronger kind of foothold in the music scene here.
Mm.
It's an area of the art scene that I've always wanted to be a little bit more uh, in with, but anytime I've ever kind of brushed up against it, it's always struck me as just very very straight and just very like, well, what's cool somewhere else? What if we recreated it, but we'll call it cool because it's on the West Coast, you know?
Yeah.
There hasn't struck me as very many like kind of, I don't think everything has to be, avant-garde and brand new and refining everything, but like at least putting a little bit of a flavor. And it just, I guess I find that like straight white art is pretty flavorless inherently, so they don't really have
Yeah.
much of a new angle to take, right?
It's funny because you call it straight white art, and in the music scene it's more of like a juxtaposition of genres, because straight white guys play guitar a very specific way. And
Yes.
I feel like, and this might be controversial and also just a sweeping statement,
Hmm.
but like I feel like queer people are just more fun.
Yeah.
And so our music tends to be more fun, our
Hmm.
presentation tends to be more fun.
Hmm.
Not always. I do know some very boring gay people,
Of course, of
and
course.
that's their right.
Yep.
But I, for sort of a depth of self awareness in
Hmm.
this conversation, I know that my music's not for everyone. I
Hmm.
love a hook. I want it to be poppy and pop rock, and sitting it next to a shoegaze band that just
Hmm.
shreds guitar and shows skill.
Hmm.
That's not what I want my music to be. My band is incredibly talented and are capable of that.
Hmm.
And there's moments where they do that.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, the only goal of my music is to have fun and
Yeah.
to leave something behind for future queer kids,
Yeah.
my nieces and nephews and nibblings, and just like all of the youth of the world, just leaving something behind.
Yeah.
um
That really that wriggles my brain in so many different directions, but I want to try and kind of cover each of them because I want to get your take on these. But I want to start with this idea of there's often this kind of uh, uh, combativeness in sort of like art appreciation
mhm.
around the sort of the presentation of like the technical skill, and somehow that gets elevated even though it's like not as um popular because it's not as accessible, right? To
Yes.
just sit and watch like a virtuoso guitarist or whatever it might be. I was just recently watching rap battles, and I was watching I was watching this oh fuck, I think I can't remember his name, but he's like a well-known uh, guy in that scene, and you know technically speaking it's fascinating, but it's like I would never want to put that on. I would never want to just be like, hey, let's listen to Tech Nine's Rap Battle 4,
Mhm.
because then on the other side there's like, how successful are you gauged on like how on the other side how accessible you are, how much you resonate across the board, and how inclusive you can be with like, come in and join this experience of this art. And I've gone in both directions. Bisexual energy. Sorry, my apologies for that. Right, but the appreciation for the craft, and then the appreciation for the like. No, you've shown more skill by being kind of. I hate using words like dumbed down, but just like being simplified and being refined, and I'm curious what led you to that kind of that push for like that direction of your art,
So like, can you
to bring in the
refine?
party more, like
Oh, to
rather
bring
than,
the party. I
yeah.
just don't have time for. I don't have like I don't. Things need to be reverent, but they don't need to be self-serious.
Yeah.
You can make art that has depth but is fun.
Yes.
You can make art that says something but is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the important part, is like, I really like the reverent serious moments. This is a great example because like we have this one song and we've been performing it all summer.
Mm.
And as we're getting ready to go into the fall and getting into me releasing my second album and talking
Yeah.
about, staging these new songs, the band is literally like, "Can we take that one out of rotation?" And I was like,
Right.
um, I love singing the song because it takes me somewhere that I want to be. But that
Mm.
place that it takes me is also incredibly sad.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes we don't really know where to place it in the set. So the song immediately after is some kind of like rowdy, fun,
Yeah.
like, I knew you in a past life kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this other one is just so serious and so deep,
Yeah.
and it's fun to watch, it's fun to do, and we probably will do it on occasion, but they were basically just like, it needs to be the right moment because this pulls everything down.
Sure.
And it's really cool to be surrounded by people who understand the vision, because there's moments where I'm like, no, I actually want to cry on stage, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, maybe not at Rifflandia.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe not on the biggest stage of your career. Maybe like,
Yeah.
maybe you just keep that at a 10 and then you save this song. And so it's so funny because they also don't like to play Hero by Enrique Iglesias, but that's a song that I've been known for my entire career.
That's my go-to karaoke song. It's one of my
Like,
favorite songs of all time.
I can't host a show and finish the show without singing it. If I'm
It's
like,
the
the show's
best.
over, people are like, sing Hero.
Yes,
It's
yes.
crazy. But the band is like, we don't want to, we don't like it. We don't want to play it. But for Rifflandia, they were like, we want to play it. Cause I'm like, oh, so you have this like level of awareness with the audience.
Mhm.
It's nice because I'm like, they could easily have just come on board to join my project and been like, we'll do whatever you say.
Yeah.
But instead they're like, we have opinions and we want
Yes.
to refine this. And
Yeah.
like, that sort of democracy is very interesting to me.
Mhm.
And being in a room like that it's so I don't know. I As a drag performer, rehearsal is lip syncing in my living room. As a
Sure.
musician, rehearsal is like turning the equipment on at the jam space and like working your way through it.
Mhm.
And it's so different. And one of the things that I'm going off on tangents here.
I
One of the things that I
Thrive.
really, really like about the creative process is tension. I think
Mhm.
tension and conflict are creative energies. And there's tons of that. And I'm so interested because I know what our tension points are. And I always wonder about what other artists experience in
Mm.
terms of conflict and how that creates things for them.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
like, the end goal always, forever and always, with my art will be fun.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make it fun? How can it connect to the most people? Because we can try and define friendship, we can try and define community. There's so many definitions, and people's definitions are often informed by their lived experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and like mine certainly is. And I saw on the sheet that that's sort of like one of the things this podcast dives into. I
Yeah.
want to avoid defining it and more
Yeah.
talk about the moments that it lives in. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's when I'm singing a song and I notice one person singing along. As a songwriter, if they know my lyrics, that's going to be really moving. But then
Mm-hmm.
even if we're doing a cover and I'm like, oh, I'm staging this for you and it's connecting to you, it's very special.
Mm-hmm.
um and there's just like some really fun milestones with music that drag doesn't get.
Yeah.
And I also think that music makes me feel more vulnerable than drag does.
So that was something I wanted to ask you about. Was the sort of you've raised a million points that I want to circle back on, but I also am
Let's go.
like I just love letting you just vibe because you're just throwing out nuggets of gold everywhere. But the intersection of music and drag is such a fascinating one because in a lot of ways drag performance is inherently musical, right? So much of it is tied into lip syncing, and so much of it is already with the built-in music there. But then to take it the next step further and create your own music and have it be to actually use your own voice. Um, was that shift, uh, was that thinking behind that shift, or was there more intentionality, or what was the drive for music to be the next step? As I know you mentioned about the idea of like leaving something, but it's like there's lots of ways to step out of the theater and create a permanent piece of art somewhere. So what was it about music that drove you there?
I believe drag is a very interesting art form. It is not a funded art form, which means we don't get money from granting streams
Yeah.
or anything like that to like further our artistic value. There's no schools for it.
Mm-hmm.
The school of drag is to go to local shows and
Mm-hmm.
learn from your drag parents or watch Drag Race or tutorials or whatever. There's so many different resources now.
Yeah.
For music, it's like drag is a derivative art form, and that's not derogatory.
Yeah.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Your art is derived from the way you view gender and
Mm-hmm.
how you want to like express it differently than your own. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the definition of drag: expressing gender that is different than your own,
Mm-hmm.
in whatever direction and configuration you want. There's no binary. And I, with music, it can be derivative. Cover bands exist.
Of course.
That's amazing. People can become millionaires doing cover bands. Like
Yeah.
it's there's so many amazing songs out there, and so many artists who are so many bands who aren't together and don't tour and blah blah blah. Like we never like if you're really good at a cover band, you're set for
Mm.
life. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
making your own music adds this level of vulnerability and this artistic element to it that I needed. I was just sort of like, I was calling myself an artist, but not feeling like an artist.
Sure.
And I don't think all drag performers feel this way. I think a lot of drag performers feel like they're an artist. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that way for me.
Mm-hmm.
And this, oh my god, I can hear my own personal growth, because I would have taken the opportunity to be so shady right there and just say just say the mean thing that I was thinking out loud, but I didn't. I
Hey!
didn't.
It's
Like
because I'm the only mentally ill one here, So
that's right. Yes. And good for you.
thank you.
So like I just is I didn't feel like an artist, so I needed to figure out how to satiate that feeling inside of me, because people were calling me an artist, and I wanted to be called an artist. And I didn't go to school. I don't have any technical skill that was taught to me. All of my technical skill has been given to me by way of mentorship,
Mm.
which is a preferred form
Yeah.
of of learning for
I
me.
think I think it's how all art should be taught in general. I don't
Yeah,
think it should be. I did go to theater school and I shouldn't have. I think I wish I had found just a mentor. Like yeah.
yeah, totally. And like, but the thing is like we as a society don't value mentorship in the same way
Mm-hmm.
because of capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
and it's rare. It's rare because they often the best um, mentorship moments I've had in my life have been large age gaps. That's
Mm-hmm.
where I've gathered lots of wisdom and then put it into practice. But with music, I was like, I don't even really think I know what the definition of a melody is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't read music. Like if I
Sure.
was staring at sheet music, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yep.
But I know music,
Yep.
and that's a really interesting thing. Is it's more of like a spiritual experience when writing a song. And what's really cool about that is, my publicist Jen says this all the time. She's like, your songs are so distinctly you that if they came on the radio, I would know it was you, not just
Mm-hmm.
by the tone of your voice, but also the way you write.
Mm-hmm.
um, because I am, at the end of the day, because I wanted to create something to leave behind, I'm
Yeah.
kind of only making art for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing that I want to do with that art is put it on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like create the art, stage the art, let the people have the art, move on, do something new.
The next one. Yeah.
Because I do like the ephemeral nature of it. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly moving things along, and God, music just takes me to a place where it causes me so much creative anxiety.
Yeah, sure. But that's a good sign. That's a good
Yeah,
thing, right? I think that,
yeah,
you were talking earlier about the idea of like creating art with intention and
yeah,
embracing the tension. And I think if you're not worried about your art, you're making the wrong art, Like
for sure.
there should be an inherent discomfort just to create it because it
100%.
I mean, I always think of it in a certain light. I think of it as it's a type of birth, and like it's not like birth is an easy thing, from what I've been told. I don't know, but
We are not qualified for that,
I
Papa.
right. I'm not going to comment beyond that. Just from secondhand being told about it, but it should be kind of uncomfortable, right? And if it's going to be worth it, there should be that tension, right?
Drag doesn't make me feel nervous at all. I could go on
Mm.
stage and it's no problem
Hmm.
because I am inspired by the audience,
Hmm.
and I know that I know that my charm can pull them in.
Yeah.
When it comes to music, you have to be technically skilled, you have to be in line with five other people.
Yeah.
All of your equipment has to function, like you have to use equipment.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's getting easier, which is really great. But there's just so much more. The stakes feel higher.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think what's sorry, my brain just went completely blank.
Well, the idea behind like you talked about like not feeling challenged by drag, and that's something that I really felt. So I came up initially in the theater world. I went to theater school. I thought I was going to be an actor, a director, a playwright, yada yada yada. Um, um, there's other factors in my life that drew me out of theater, but one of them is that I felt like I feel like I had a similar experience where I wasn't feeling challenged by it. I felt really safe. I felt really comfortable. I could memorize my lines really easily. I could, find my character. I never had a trouble with any of that. And I would get on stage, and it was a breeze. It was second nature for me, and it was fun, and it was invigorating in that it's fun to be in front of people and to give a good performance and to feel, kind of fed by that energy. But I wasn't feeling satisfied afterwards. There was still this kind of black hole, and finding other creative outlets for me has yeah, for me it's pushed me into the podcast realm. It's pushed me into the poetry realm, places that I still, I've been writing poetry for god 10 maybe 15 years now, and I still don't feel like I've fully cracked it. I'm still refining, I'm still practicing, I'm still trying stuff, and I still don't feel like I truly have, in a certain way, the right to call myself a full-fledged poet yet, because I'm still scared of it, right? And I like that. That's what pulls me into the art, right?
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned earlier, and I'm gonna agree with you because this is the same kind of energy I wanted to bring. I don't want to circle to the classic temple questions, but I do want to kind of like circle the drain of them a little bit. And I
Sure.
want to start with one you've touched on slightly, but I'd like to kind of hear a little bit more about is, you were talking about this idea of the kind of the elder mentor, and it just so happens that you're one of your mentors, former guest of the show, Chandelier, who also, I want to kind of dog ear here, read the audiobook for an incredible book about queer lives in New York in the 40s and the 50s.
Mhm.
The title I'm always missing up, but it's something along the lines of "P.S. Burn this, please burn
Yeah.
this letter," right?
Yeah.
And that book to me was revelatory on so many levels, because of the what felt like the sort of monument that had been created for these people who had been here and had lived and had tried their best, and history kind of tried to erase them, and we wouldn't let it, right? And so hearing how you were talking about your music really feels like a continuation of that energy. Um,
It's so funny that you bring up P.S. Burn this letter, because there's a song on my new record that comes out in September that
mm,
is loosely inspired by that sentiment, the concept of like burn something after you read it,
yeah,
and I think that the initial like seed of that idea came from Shanda, like that book, because I ate it up. It
yeah,
was
same.
and I'm really drawn to the concept of like I twisted it around to be more about when someone tells you like a big secret in their life, something that makes them feel incredibly vulnerable,
Yep.
and then they freak out and they tell you to forget it, or they try and like backtrack or those sorts of things. It gives that like burn after reading vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like please don't remember me for what I told you, like
Mm.
forget everything about me kind of situation. Because there's things that make people sort of like spin out when it comes
Yeah,
to vulnerability,
yeah,
push
yeah.
people away.
Isn't that the case though? And that's something that I'm really recognizing lately is that my sort of I would frame it. I mean, I've had several chapters over the last decade or so, but my most recent one, where I was really pushed over the last like 2-3 years to really get vulnerable with myself about what was I doing, what was I repeating, why was I finding myself in these similar situations over and over again, and I've really realized that to be that level of vulnerable is one of the hardest things to do. It's it feels like it shouldn't be. It feels like it should be you should be able to just be like, well, this is true, so I'm just going to say what's true. But for some reason, the truth is the scariest thing in the goddamn world, right? um
Me and my producing partner have talked about this for we've been working together now for 5 years, and we constantly talk about how we will say something that we think is bold and brave and pass it off as vulnerability, but if you are actually saying something vulnerable, you'd probably likely be shaking and not actually be able to say it.
yes,
It's like performative vulnerability so that people
yes.
think that you are self-aware.
Hmm. There's an interesting link that I've been really chewing on lately. I just saw, I follow several BPD Instagram accounts, because that's amongst
Is that one?
amongst
Are those some of your letters?
some of my letters, some of my ransom note letters, I call it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And one of the posts was talking about, when you use the reason you use therapy language in therapy is because it helps you depersonalize the issue and remain separate from your therapist, so that you don't become entangled and enmeshed. It allows for a depersonalization so that you can analyze and create resolutions. You're not supposed to talk with therapy language to your friends. You're supposed to just talk to your friends. And it's why this wave of like pseudotherapy lingo in just kind of casual conversation makes everybody look like a psychopath, because it's like, no, like you're not actually saying words, you're just thinking you're sounding smart by using these pseudo terms, and usually you're using them wrong. You know.
Well, the problem that I find, for me, because I am autistic,
Mm-hmm.
sorry to actually like lie to you at the beginning there, is that I don't. There's other letters too.
Yeah, yeah,
There's some A's and some D's,
yeah, yeah. I've got
and
those. I've got those. I've got the ASD on my
yeah,
bingo card too. Yeah.
there's some A's, some D's, some H's. There's
Yep.
an O.
Yep.
There's another D, maybe a C,
Oh. 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 Oh.
and there's a P in there
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and a T.
Yeah.
There's a
I think
lot.
there's maybe a C before the PT. You know, but
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Yes, my childhood, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
See me about that, C, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that when it comes to therapy speak and then coming back to friends, when I'm talking to someone and we're having a conversation or a conflict, if I don't hear I statements, I red flag, because
Yes.
I'm like, you need to talk to me directly, person to person.
Yeah.
And when people are like, well, when this happens, this is how I feel. I'm like, no, how did it make you feel when I did that to you? Because that's the
Interesting.
realty,
Yeah.
I don't. I've been some pretty hardcore therapy.
Yeah.
I've done some crazy shit,
Yeah.
and I think the magic of it is learning to unprogram the fear around stuff like that.
Yes. Yes. Isn't that the truth? I was just talking with some people the other day about how much I loathe corporate speak. When bosses say, "Can we do this?" Right? When they're always like, "Well, what if we did this?" And I'm like, "Well, so does that mean you're going to do it? Like, I need you to tell me, James, you are going to do this task." Or, like, speak directly to me, right? And I think that correlates back to this thing of when you're using these, like, well, I felt this, I felt that. The reason we're trained to do that is because it does take the sting out, right? Because
Mhm.
people are so ready to take on the shame, and they're so ready to be defensive, and they're so ready to be like, well, I didn't mean it. Well, what, right? When it's like, if you can remove that shame piece from you, and if you can just like hear what your impact was,
Mhm.
uh we could communicate so much clearer to each
Totally.
other. Right.
I left the corporate life behind. I was a manager at Sephora,
Mm.
and my whole ethos as a manager, like I realized I- a little ways in, like 4 or 5 years in, that there were so many of things that lived inside of me that I was compromising values
Mm-hmm.
wise,
Mm-hmm.
and leaving was incredibly triumphant. It's been an
Mm.
incredible gift to leave that behind. And when I left it behind, I was like, I'm not going to be anyone's boss ever again. Like that's
Yeah.
I don't want that. I have a different concept of what a boss is.
Mm-hmm.
A boss should be like a supporter. You should
Yeah.
hire people who you trust to do their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You should listen to what they need, and you should do that because
Mm-hmm.
quality of life actually begets better work, blah blah blah, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the kind of manager that did the things alongside you. And so
Mm.
if I did say we, I was actually doing it. And because of
Yeah.
that, I was trusted a lot more than other
Yeah.
managers.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I think I'm my mother's child in that way,
Mm.
because she's very that way
Mm-hmm.
when she's a supervisor. And something I really admire about my mom is she would never ask someone to do something unless she would also do it or has
Sure.
done it.
Yeah.
And I think there come times as managers where you have the opportunity to do the little things that everyone has to do. And then there are times when you won't have time to do it. And so
Yeah.
you have to really take advantage of those moments. And like, I think that that's also emulates in friendships,
Yes. Yeah.
where there's moments where you have capacity to show up for someone and there's times when you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when communication becomes very important. And
Yeah.
my last relationship, with my last partner, there were times when I would need support. And because of the way we communicated, there would be times where he would say to me, like, just so you know, I don't have the capacity. You should go ask so and so.
Yeah.
Because the clarity of having like a smaller friend group who is connected and who you can rely on for emotional things means you can ask more than one person, not just a romantic partner. And
Yes.
that just like it clears the path for having shitty relationships that
Mhm.
don't have strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been my whole thing. So I'm just about I'm about 2 months out from being 2 years sober. And one of the initial concepts that I really grabbed onto, I've talked about a few times on the show. So listeners will be familiar. This will be your first time hearing it. But it was this idea of uh, get yourself a six pack um, of people. So rather than having like the traditional, like, the sponsor, or other people would lean on just their partner or whatever it might be. Instead, get and of course, typical alcoholics are going to make anything into a booze joke. So they're like, get a six pack of people you can rely on, so that you're not putting all your weight on any one individual, but instead
Totally.
you're able to spread it out, and that way you can always get support, and that way you can always give support, because everybody's going to need something a little different,
Totally. And the secret to that is to learn how to communicate your needs.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
really fucking struggled with that. I
Yeah.
really sort of the autism made me just want people to read my mind. I just wanted
Hmm.
them to read my mind.
How did you get yourself into a place where you, like, what did you practice in doing that,
Um, well, it came from a really dark place.
Okay.
It wasn't a moment of self-awareness. It was a moment of like a few people who were my friends telling me that I was not as good a friend as I was thinking I was.
Mm-hmm.
And lost a lot of important relationships and
Mm-hmm.
had a couple of very public character takedowns
Mm.
that weren't super fair or warranted or needed, necessary for the plot, but or not necessary for the plot, but ultimately drove the plot forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pandemic started, the world became a very terse and very like line in the sand, black and white place.
Yeah.
And I felt like nuance was lost for a long time.
Yeah. I
And
don't
I
even
feel
know
like
if it's back yet.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
we're still trying to claw that shit back
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but in that dark time, that's when I realized that I communicate differently. I
Mm.
realized I feel differently.
Mm-hmm.
Realized people can't read my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that if I create rules for friends, they don't actually know them unless I tell them to them.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I'm just playing a game by myself and being miserable,
Yeah.
and then you take it out on them, and
Yeah.
it's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm like 4 or 5 years into like being like rehabilitated as a
Mm.
as like a dog from the pound.
Yep. Yep.
And it took a lot of shedding of a lot of old friends and old friendships, things that were just outdated,
Yeah.
people who are running on different iOS information on us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's still things that come my way where people are like, oh, I heard this about you, and I was like, yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that the important part of that is like my therapist is always like, whenever I'm complaining about someone or whatever, something comes up or I bring her something, she's always like, do you believe people believe you can change? And I'm like,
Mm.
yes. And she's like, okay, so we're going to give the same grace to everyone else, right? And
Yeah.
my therapist is no nonsense.
Wow,
Yeah.
I love that. I'm listeners of the show are deeply familiar with my therapist, Scott.
Right.
Shout out Scott, my favorite boy in the world. We love Scott here, and he's very similar. He's very like I've been working with him for 5 years, and so he's like
Yeah.
at this point he's like he knows me, he knows what I'm about. He doesn't cut around like what if he's like no, we're not doing that, right? And I love it.
Yeah, I've only made my therapist laugh one time, and
Mm.
then sometimes if I crack a joke, she'll say, "Okay, cool. Do you want to pay me to make jokes, or do you want to pay me to do therapy?" To which I say, to which I say, I'm always going to make jokes, but I
Yeah,
do want to do the therapy part. Thank
yeah,
you so much.
yeah, yeah,
She hasn't really done that in a while,
yeah.
mostly because we're in the right groove of like, just like we, for my own organization,
Mhm.
we sort of have written a map of all of my issues and all of my
Mhm.
triggers and all of my inner stories. And so then every
Mm.
session we pick one and then we extrapolate it, um,
Beautiful.
which is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that now for like 3 years off and on. There's breaks, which is good. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Shan and I actually have adopted this kind of like we call it like shelter dog moments, right? I think it came from a meme somewhere, but but what we talk about like because we both have moments of like and we call them shelter dog moments of like okay, I'm just gonna I need you to show me I'm safe, you know what I mean? Because right now I'm like and that those are loops that are gonna be kind of in my body for life in some
Totally.
capacity, right?
Yeah.
But you can work with them and you can recognize that like a shelter dog reacts because they were in danger at some point and now they're not, and so just showing
Totally.
them that they're not in danger here, right? And I think a piece of that is that like like saying something like we're here for therapy, not for jokes, right? That could feel like a slap in the wrong
Yeah.
context. That could feel
Yeah.
like an insult in the wrong context, but recognizing that like you can be put in your place safely,
Totally.
right? And being
Totally.
put in your place isn't always about shame. It isn't always about. It's about like, why are we playing? Like why,
Literally.
like come back to being serious. Come back to the work that you're doing
Yeah.
because therapy is fucking work. It's not
Totally.
flippant, right? So
The only time I made her laugh, it was the start of a session, so it was fresh.
hmm,
And she was like, "Okay, what do you want to work on today?" And because I have a list of things and then I have sort of like a numerical value attributed to them for like where it sits on the trigger scale for me, every time I pick one, I sort of like assess how that would what the number trigger would be for me that day and then what I've noted it as being in the past.
mm-hmm.
So on this morning, I was like, she was like, "Where do you want to start? Or where do you want to work on today?" And I was like, "I'll take everybody hates me for 5, please." And she laughed like that. And then she immediately was like, "That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to blah, blah, blah." And then like you get into the activity of it all.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've gotten like an emotional response, usually laughter from Scott, and every time like I live for it. Even though
Yeah.
I know that's not why we're here. I know, but it's like there's always going to be a part of me that's like I want to win therapy. I want to be my therapist's favorite,
Yeah.
like I want them to love me. I want them to want to be my friend, even though
Totally.
that would destroy the work we're doing. But like, so it's
I saw this meme on the internet the other day. It said, "I'll tell you one thing for sure. If I invented healing, it would be linear."
amen, sister. Like Jesus H fuck,
I have experienced so much grief in my life
Mhm.
that like any day is kind of like a bit of a landmine.
Yeah.
And it's truly wild, especially like my dad passed in 2020 and then my grandpa passed in 2023.
Mm.
Yeah. And I just like it feels like you're just like slow, the TV's on in the background,
Yep.
and then a memory will come up, and I'll either be like, or be like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Like, it's truly
Yeah. You
crazy.
never
And
know.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. What I want to say. I had a friend once describe grief as this idea of it never gets smaller. The
No,
grief is that size forever. It's always going to be that size. The work is in creating a bigger container for it,
that's
and
right.
that's what makes it feel smaller. Is
Yeah.
that you're not but like the grief never. It's always there, right?
Grief deepens our soul. It
Mhm,
deepens our human experience
mhm,
because grief is the energy of loss, which is one of
mhm.
the only things we all experience.
Yeah, yeah,
And like literally the only other than pissing and shitting
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and eating, but
Yeah.
even then that's questionable.
And we also
All
all those things we experience slightly differently. Like
that's right.
we don't all do it the same, right? So
And
it's
we experience loss differently too. And
Mm.
we also don't value certain types of loss more than others. We don't
Yes.
value the loss of a friend in the same way we value
Yep.
like 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 losing a friendship.
Yeah.
versus like a family member dying, they can feel the same.
Oh yeah.
The wisdom is not that it's hierarchical, it's that it's different columns.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where people get long. They think it's a listicle. They think it's
Mm-hmm.
a top, like all the Marvel movies ranked from 1 to 50. It's not, that's not how it
Yeah.
is.
I was just talking about this with a friend about the idea of like there's no ceremony, the way that there's like a ceremony for a breakup, right? In that like that I wouldn't call it closure, but we know that there is finality, right? Whether it's a good or a bad breakup, whatever, you know that you have broken up. There is no ceremony for the loss of a friend. You just suddenly aren't speaking again, and you don't always know why. I know for myself, most of the time I'm like, I don't know. I thought we were cool. For some reason, they stopped answering my texts, and I don't know what happened. And it is grief, and it is shattering. But there's no ritual. There's no thing to do. There's no funeral for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what to do for that, right?
Totally. I think like I create my own rituals now.
Mm.
I mean, I haven't had a friend breakup in a long time because, again, like it's good to have a really sturdy six pack,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and doing check ins is so important
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. Um, because of the six pack thing, it does make making friends a little bit more difficult. But I will
Yes.
say that in the last year and a bit, I've made a couple new friends
Mm.
and actually 2 years ago after like 2 years of not making new friends and just focusing on myself, I was like, I want to make a new friend, like I'm
Yeah.
going to go out of my way.
Yep.
And I made a new friend and she's amazing and she's
Yep.
incredible and I love that we have very specific things in common and it's so magical. And then the most recent friend that I've made that I'm very very close to, um I'm not naming names just for the sake of
Yeah.
like it's not that important.
Perfect.
It's just we can finish each other's sentences. It's like we were like waiting our lives to meet each other
Mm.
and everything just clicked into place.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so nervous and I kept them at arm's length for a while and then it just was like I was like, oh no, like you're you're the additional can. And then ah we haven't talked about how sometimes a six pack can give birth to another can,
A little canlet.
a canlet, because that happened to me in the last couple of years.
I
And
love this.
that is having a toddler around is like
Mm.
a game changer. I am
Mm.
constantly inspired. I have someone who is experiencing life for the first time and
Yeah.
sharing it with me.
Yeah.
And no matter like if I'm in the pits and I say to my friend like, "Oh, I don't know how I feel about going to family dinner," she always just says to me like, "Well, just go hang with the
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
When you first get there, go in that direction."
Mhm.
And I always come away from that being like, "Life ain't shit. Like this
Yeah.
is so fun."
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I
like
feel
my
like
problems are not real.
yes. I feel like that the returning to that root of like it's not about the hierarchy of age, but I think having elders and juniors, for lack of a better word, infants, in your life consistently, continually, and being open to all the range of experiences that happen throughout our lifespan,
Mhm.
and getting access to all those different periods at any point in your life, I think is so vital, to listen to the elder, to listen to the infant, and then to also give back to them as well, to give yourself to them, right?
There's also this. I hope you find this next story interesting because I find
Please.
it very interesting. It covers a lot of what we've just talked about.
Yeah.
I was recently asked if I would babysit.
Fascinating. No, no.
It's been 2 years. The
Yeah.
child has been here for 2 years.
Yeah.
I would say that this child is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
We are very close.
Yeah.
They are very funny. They love me very much. I love them very much.
Mm-hmm.
I've written a song about them. Like
Oh,
I love them. When I
yeah.
was asked to babysit, I spun out. I
Yeah.
crashed out. I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this. The inability to say that in text message
Yes.
was such a bizarre feeling. And I was like, okay, can't say this in text message,
Yeah.
needs to come up naturally in a conversation.
Yeah.
And my friends are very good at knowing those rhythms. We know those rhythms of each other. We can tell when someone's doing something because we just pay attention to behavior. And then we're like, hey, are you in this direction? That
Mm.
interesting. So when I brought it up, I was like, hey, just want to bring up, like, you offered to let me babysit, asked me to babysit, and I crashed out a little bit about it. I don't think I I don't think I'm ready. I think that there's a lot of vulnerability there for me and a
Mm.
lot of like scary things for me. And I was like, but I don't want to not be asked. I would
Yeah.
love for you to continue to ask me. And I want you to know that I am understanding that part of the reason I was scared about this is because it means that I would have to be in charge of someone,
Mm.
and not in charge, but like
Yeah.
present and like all of these
Responsible
things.
for them.
And I'm worried I can't do that.
Mm.
I know that I'm capable, but I'm immediately worried that I can't. And they were basically like, no problem. When we asked you, it was in a group message with one other person,
Right.
purposefully to sort of like have you microdose this experience because
Mm.
it is something that, like, you know, we kind of knew
Yeah.
that, the first time would be difficult to be asked, maybe. But we also like might need you in the future. So
Yeah.
like get yourself in order. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, the problem is that what if like I show up and then they don't like me?
Yeah.
What if they decide when we're hanging out that they don't like me? And
Yeah.
my friend
Yeah.
was literally like, then they'll play in the corner and ignore you. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. It's almost like they have autonomy too, right? Yeah.
literally. And I was like, oh, gee. I was like, for sure. And they were like, also, you're like, you're their favorite uncle. Like,
Yeah.
they're not,
Yeah. And
you
there's
know?
something so beautiful about getting to be that like the family aunt, you know. I was just talking the other day about my favorite person in the world growing up was my auntie Nancy, who was
Ugh.
like my mom's best friend, right?
Mhm,
Favorite person in the whole wide
mhm,
world. Like
mhm.
anytime she was over, I was like, today's a good day. 4-year-old me just like, yes, auntie Nancy's here,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And getting to be that for other kids is one of
Really
life's
cool.
great joys,
Yeah. I find that I take my responsibility very seriously. Like,
Mm.
if me and my friends like go out into public
Mhm.
and there's a child and the child interacts with me, I'm like, oh, they must know. Like, the kids connect via Bluetooth through
Yeah,
the
yeah,
air. I don't know how the technology works.
yeah, yeah,
And then they get information that, like, that's an uncle, that's an auntie.
yeah,
You can absolutely, like, they have snacks,
yeah.
and they have, yeah,
They're
totally.
cool, they're
They're
cool,
they're
right? Yeah,
cool. They're
yeah,
cool. They
yeah,
got pouches.
yeah,
They're like they're down.
yeah.
They're down.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. It is really magic though, and it really, it's a weird thing to say, but it's like, yeah, you need to get more kids in your life. I think listeners in general, I think myself included, something I'm that's killing me right now is that I have two nieces and a nephew in like just outside of Halifax,
Oh, yeah.
and they're all like two of them are like 10ish range, and the other one's brand new, less than a year old, and I'm just like, I just get to watch them grow up through screens, and it's killing me,
I know. Yeah.
Um,
My brother has 3 kids, and he
mhm,
lives in Cranbrook, and
mm,
I watch them through the screen too.
yeah,
And it's tough,
yeah,
and I think that he resents me a little bit for it, but I try, and when I'm there, I try and show up as best I can.
mhm,
But there is a difference between being around a child for a long time.
yeah,
And so I think I'm on the verge, because the baby was just born in June. I think I'm going to send them a bunch of photos of me in a frame, so that
yeah.
you can be like, this is your
They
this
know
is
the
your
face.
uncle.
Yeah,
Sometimes they come around,
yeah,
and when they come around, so you don't hurt their feelings, you should be nice to them.
Yeah. Oh my god, that fully happened with my niece, with my the oldest niece. She, every time I see her in person is basically like re-meeting her,
Yeah.
because she has no time for me, because she's like, well, you're never around, it's like basically like I'm the deadbeat dad that she doesn't have. And so she gets to take that energy out on me of like, well, I haven't seen you in 2 years. What do you think, I'm gonna hug you now? Right?
My mom's always like, go play with Nyla. I was like, Nyla doesn't like me.
Yeah.
Nyla. And then and then I figured it out. I was like, food.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Food.
feed him.
So then
Yeah.
I'd bring a bag of chips and I'd like open it. I'd be like, you want a chip? And she'd be like,
Mm-hmm. See, I got
just,
in good. I got in good with my nephew because we're both into Pokemon, so that's
oh,
my in,
right.
right? Right?
Yeah.
But my niece couldn't give less of a shit about Pokemon, so I'm like, I'm still looking. She
You
really
gotta
likes
listen. You gotta
hockey,
listen
and
to
I'm
it.
like,
Oh,
well,
hockey.
girl, you can
Well,
go bond
talk
with
to her
your
about
dad over
being
that.
brave.
Right, exactly. Right, I know. I was like, "Don't you want to paint your nails? Don't you want to like put on pretty dresses? Like, come on, what?
No, no, no. No, James, the other gay. You got to talk to her
Oh,
about being the other gay. You're
oh,
bisexual. Go in the other
oh.
direction.
Okay. Oh, Doc Martens,
Also,
flannel, bass
can we
guitar.
talk about my nails are hot pink and yours are blue? Because that's the two genders.
Right. Because binary is real.
Oh my god.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, Dust. I'm clocking the time here, and I don't want to. I'm having such a great time chatting with you, and but I also want to kind of start the wrap up, because I feel like we
sure.
could just chat forever,
For sure.
and that's so
Absolutely.
encouraging. I want to just be your friend in real life, and I also like just want to get you back on the show again.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I have two kind of things I wanted to one question, and then one other thing I kind of wanted to circle back about. Because we talked a lot about this idea of building these micro communities, and this is something that I'm really onto. The last couple of years has really forced me to really shrink my friend group and really be mindful of that. And I'm curious, in your experience, how does someone go about practicing that? Like, what would be some kind of it's funny, I'm always asking for advice, but I'm always hesitant to use the word advice, just for listeners, of like, if someone were trying to start that road, where would you recommend they start to explore
Well, I don't have an answer or any advice for you in
that?
that.
So
For
fair.
me, for me, people left
Mm-hmm.
and they told me they were leaving.
Yeah.
Well, some told me they were leaving and some just left.
Yeah.
So, like, unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that. I
So
don't
first you have
even.
to have a nervous breakdown, and then go from there.
You gotta be like consistently distant and strange friend who doesn't connect with people because you don't know that you're autistic,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you also have to be an anxiety induced monster who treats people like trash. Um, and then they will leave, and then
Yep.
you're good. No, no, I don't even know where I would like. I think that it would take a lot more time than we have
Yeah.
on
Sure.
this podcast for me to sit and think about what I would do.
Yeah.
But I'm polyamorous,
Mm.
and I would de-escalate the friendship. And I've
Mm.
done it a couple of times since,
Mhm.
but because yeah, I guess that's related to your question. It's about being like, is this a friend you see every week? Is this a friend you see every 3 months? And then learning how to communicate that. And I have one friend who did that really, really well with me. She was like, listen, like, you're very dear to me, but I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And she was like, I know that you would love to see me every week or every other week, but I don't think that that will work for me.
Mm.
And they were just very, 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 very open about that. And it took me a long time to stomach it. But in the world of poly, we deal with our stuff. We process our things outside of our relationships so we don't make it their problem. Because when
Yep.
someone is bold enough to tell you what they need,
Mm-hmm.
you should be bold enough to sit down with it and figure it out. And it took me a minute, but I figured it out. And that led to when my previous relationship de-escalated, breakup, whatever you want to call it. There was sort of a framework for that. And I remember him saying, like, I think this needs to be like this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, because I've already done the work on that. So thank you
Yes.
for asking for the thing that I have already done. But the thing with it is like that it's there for everything,
Yeah.
when the biggest act of love someone can do for you is for them to tell you what they need.
Yeah. Isn't
And
that true?
when you tell them what you need and it doesn't match, the biggest thing is to say, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I would love to see my friend more,
Sure.
but she doesn't have the capacity for that. So it's either unfriend, don't be friends anymore,
Yeah.
or like find a new perspective to look at that, which is that she's willing to still commit to it,
Mhm, mhm,
So,
mhm.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. That actually builds into the last sort of show question I have for you, which is I try to always leave listeners with some kind of like actionable thing that they can try out. And
Uh-huh.
I'm curious, what is one thing listeners could try doing this week to be a more effective friend to themselves or to their community around them?
An effective friend for yourself or someone else around you. What I'm going to do is I want you to think about a friend, whether they live in the same city as you or not, and I want you to send them a piece of mail. I want you to physically sit down and I want you to write about the things that you love about that person. You write them with your words, with a pen and a piece of paper. And I want you to inconvenience yourself by having to go to the post office and buy a stamp and send it to them. Because lost are sometimes screenshots are not the same vibe.
Yeah.
And as someone who likes to collect physical things as mementos, like that's empowering. For my fans, I have a spreadsheet of their names and addresses, and I send them postcards a couple of times a year. Stay
Wow.
connected
Yeah.
in that way because those are the moments that are cherished. So
Yeah.
physically send someone a piece of mail this week, whether they're your neighbor or whether they're in New York.
Yeah. Oh,
You like
I
that?
love that. I love that. I love it. I'm already like, who am I? Like, I often ask for the, for the thing for listeners, but more often than not, I end up being like, oh, I'm gonna do that. But that is
Yeah,
one that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that because that is magic. I love it.
I'm doing.
I started getting a little misty just thinking about
Yeah,
who I was like, who am I gonna write to? And then the names came, and I was like, oh, they're gonna be tear flecked letters there, right?
well, my really good friend is away for work for 2 months, and
Mm.
I intend on sending her postcards a couple times a week,
Yeah.
just so that they're constantly flowing through for her because
Yeah.
she's not a very good texter.
Mm.
Things you understand and learn about your friends, and
Uh-huh.
so you know,
Beautiful.
it'll be a cherished moment for
Yeah.
sure.
There's nothing better than getting a postcard. God, I love getting
Nothing.
postcards. Oh,
It's amazing.
it's the best. Dust, where can listeners find you? Where would you like to point them?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Unicorn River Child, or you can visit my website, dustcwaine.ca, DUSTCWAINE.ca. On my website, you can find any kind of streaming service for my music.
Mhm.
You can find a calendar of upcoming shows. You can find incredible photography. You can pre-order my sophomore album, Twin Lakes, which comes out in September.
Yeah.
Pre-order it on vinyl, which is very exciting. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the spiel.
Beautiful, beautiful. That was going to be my last thing too, because I was going to say I know you've got your next album coming out, and I'm really excited. I've been listening to the single,
Oh, thank
the
you.
Twin Lakes single, and I
Thank
love
you.
it. Oh my
Thank you so much.
god!
Yeah, thank you.
I did remember the name of that one. Of course,
You
it's
did.
because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the name of the album. So I
yeah.
was like, I could get that one, But
Do you want me to send you like a Dust Cwaine exclusive? Like maybe send you a track to play at the end of the podcast so your fans can like hear an exclusive? Yeah.
more than anything, more than anything, that's all I want in this world. Like
Boom.
you are incredible. Dust Cwaine, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for talking to me. I'm just like huh, I
Thank
I'm
you
gonna
for
get so
having
appropriate because I was like, I already had a big crush on you. Now I'm just like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ, Now we can't meet because I'm gonna be so weird.
I'm totally okay with that. I am. I am poly, single, and ready to mingle. And I think what's great about this, and I just want to thank you so much for being so organized and having a Calendly link.
Mm,
Oh,
life
that
changing,
makes life
right?
so much easier.
Life
Woo!
changing. Yeah. Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah. You're
Incredible.
so welcome. You're so welcome. And that's it. Thank you so much one more time to Dust for coming on the show. It was such a pleasure to chat with them, get to know them a little bit, and I'm really kind of admittedly struggling for words to say how much that interview meant to me. Be sure, if you aren't already, to follow Dust on Instagram through the links in the show notes, and go check out their new album, Twin Lakes. It's going to be coming out in September. You will not want to miss that one. And hey, if you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to leave the podcast a 5-star review wherever you listened. And if you want more Friendless content, why not check out the Friendless Substack? I decided I wasn't happy with what I was putting out, and so I've done a total refresh. I've kind of reevaluated the kind of content I want to put out. So that will be coming down the pipeline soon. I'm just kind of giving myself a little bit of breathing room. I don't have to get into it right now, but subscribe. You will get all the updates. There's going to be tons of fun stuff behind the scenes, lots of essay writing, all kinds of goodies. It's going to be completely free, so check that out through the links in the show notes. But I want to wrap up because I have an incredible, exclusive, brand new song by the one and only Dust Cwaine coming up here in a moment. So I just want to do quick housekeeping, say thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you for coming back. I'll be back again next week with a brand new episode, and I hope you will join me then. But I'm not going to worry about that right now, and neither should you, because that is then, and this is now. So for now, I'll just say I love you, and I wish you well. Fun and safety, sweet peas.
My name is Dust Cwaine, and this is my newest single, Jupiter. And you can find it on my upcoming album, Twin Lakes. I hope you enjoy it. I was just a kid, didn't have to go that hard. Yeah, I'm grown up now. Just wanna hear that you're proud. I'm the great optimist, Jupiter and Cancer in the first house. Follow the stars, life hits me down, but I ain't no slouch. I can't grow up faster than this. Life's a master class, I ain't on the list. You sent me to the wind, let me show you where I've been. I'm the great optimist. I'm the great optimist. I'm the great optimist. If I sing it long enough, I might believe that I'm tough enough. Take my word for it, the answer's hidden in your scars. Yeah, that's ink on my heart. I hope you know you played your part. I'm the great optimist, 7 planets in Capricorn. I'm bored, fuck the stars. Life keeps coming and I want more. I can't grow up faster than this. Life's a master class, I ain't on the list. You send me to the wind, let me show you where I've been. I'm the great optimist. I'm the great optimist. I'm the
friend, and I won't forget what you've done.